Wanna feel closed off from all that I could become. Eager but too scared to climb. Wanted to please my friends, but it felt like the end of myself. I was shut down and all drained out. I was lost, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. They think that I have lost my mind, that I'm not being true, but they don't have a clue. Cause this is me when I cut out all the shallowness and everything I suppress to fit in a small frame. But I won't play your game anymore, so I had to change. Yeah, I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turned on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now. I'm gonna let them talk, but I ain't following nobody else. How can I be resentful when I finally respect myself? I shook off all the bad vibes, cut me loose from the pettiness. They turn on me, but now I am perfectly free to be me. This is who I am. This is who I am now. No matter what they saying, this is who I am. This is who I am now.
Jen Silbernagel.
Gary McGowan, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. We got somebody in the green room, and we're all trying to share it. Who can share the most?
I was just trying to figure out how to share, so I don't know how you get it onto your stories, but I figured it out, I think.
It's all good. It's all good. So we got lots happening on this show today, and special guest and somebody I've known for an awful long time, and they are all over the place. Mary says perfect. So I'm going to assume that she means my volume's coming in perfect. I'm going to go with that. Anyways, that means we should roll right into the intro, Jen.
All right, you, Lynn.
Perfect. Perfect. Yes, that is what she's referring to. That's good news. That's good news for everybody. Yes, as I mentioned, we do have someone in the green room that's just waiting there. We should just let him sit there all show.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. Pump
Uh,
fake them.
That's funny. That's right. You're coming on now. Note, you're coming on now. Note now. So, you gave me some great ideas to talk about, Jen, and people always ask, where do we get our ideas from, our topics, and it's things that are happening right within our market, our brokerage, and questions that are coming up. And if one person has that question, we can probably assume that many do, right?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think a lot of the time, it's conversation that's happening among our top producing agents, and sometimes it's questions coming up with our brand new agents in scenarios that they've never come across before, and then we get reminded of them as they get asked, right? That these things pop up and happen, and pretty much we're basing it on what agents are experiencing in any given day or week, with the market and all the market changes in the last little while.
Yeah, perfect, perfect. So let's jump right into our guests. And I've worked with this person for, I'm going to say, well, my entire time here at KW, so 8.5 years now. And I know he's been with KW for, I think it's just over 10 years. And Kirby Chan has brought so much value into my world, from an online lead gen to leverage to just thinking outside the box, and be learning to have fun while doing a business. Kirby, I'm going to bring you on screen right now, my friend, and give it up for Kirby Chan. There you go. Find the center of the screen. There you have it. How's it going, my friend?
Hey guys, very good. Hey Gary, hey Jen.
Hey,
Awesome to be
Kirby.
here.
So Kirby, for all those people that are perhaps watching this and don't know who Kirby Chan is, give us that little 1 minute bio of who Kirby Chan is. Do you have a wife? Do you have kids? Do you operate in real estate? What do you do?
Yeah, so I am first and foremost. I'm a fan. I have a family. I'm a leader in my family. So I have my wife, which is Carrie. So some of you may have seen my partner and wife, Carrie Cito. So she's a pivotal person inside of Kirby Chan & Co. real estate team. So we are in real estate. I have 3 boys and 3 beautiful boys, and they're yeah, that's the reason why we do a lot of our business that we do. Yeah.
Perfect. So what are you doing, and how are you leveraging yourself into real estate? Like, real estate comes at us in so many different forms. And one of the things that you've been really great at is, obviously working hard in the industry, but not overextending yourself, and you protect that family time. We want to talk to you about some of the leverage things that you're doing. Talk to us about that.
Well, leverage. So I always say to people, you don't have to work hours in real estate. Like for me, I work most days is 3 hours a day, right? Today is a little different. We're having offer presentation tonight. And so I'm working the whole day, calling agents, looking for offers there, right? But most days it's about 3 hours a day, because we hit our 20%, our key money making activities. So we leverage 2 things. One is systems. Where's the screen? One is systems. Number 2 is going to be people. So systems meaning the lead generation systems like Facebook ads, Facebook chat bots that will pre-qualify people, using our CRM, using KW Command, being able to automate a lot of the emails that go out. And the key thing is the notifications that come back. So I know who's responding. Out of like hundreds of leads that you have to go through, it takes a lot of time. For me, it's automated, and it shows up a notification who's responding to me. So I know who to call. Right? That saves me a lot of time. And the second thing is people, right? Talent is key. So for me, I have about 6 virtual assistants in the Philippines. And I don't call them virtual assistants, because assistants will always only assist me. So I call them virtual leaders. So they don't assist me. They're actually leaders in their own department. So the 6 leaders take ownership. So another word that we use is accountable. So they take ownership of their role. So they never come back to me and say, Kirby, what's next? And I love that, because when they take ownership of it, they go and do the things that they need to do. I don't have to manage them.
I like it. So Jen and Kirby mentioned something there that we haven't necessarily talked about in the past, and that's being in your 20%.
Yeah.
Like how great would life be if we all landed in our 20%?
Well, I mean, the big takeaway I got from that was we can work 3 hours a day. Like, it's so purposeful in its process, and I love that. It's so obvious and simple, and also a huge learning curve for a lot of people to let go of all that other stuff and just know and be clear on what that 20% is. And Kirby, has been doing that for quite a while and figured that out pretty early on, and I think adapted it at a high level with his Facebook playbook and his virtual leaders and all the stuff that he's created and incorporated with the team environment as well. And I mean, you also, you didn't touch on this yet, Kirby, but you also do training and coaching of other agents and providing models for them to learn how to do these things, right? So you are leveraging it into another outlet, another passion. And I think that's really, really cool to see that by being purposeful in that top 20%, those other opportunities create themselves, right?
Yeah. And I always say Keller Williams, like, I joined the company in 2010, and after joining Keller Williams, I think that was the key. That was the access point to so many doors that's opening. So it's not just about selling real estate. The real estate training coaching program that we have right now is a result of being in Keller Williams. Being able to be that person of contribution inside of real estate allowed me to develop this program, allowed me to develop the Facebook playbook. So I get to use the Facebook playbook. And here's a funny story, guys. The Facebook playbook last year, we use it like maybe on our team 30% of the time. And then COVID happened. Everything shut down. We decided to not go do any more door knocking, no more cold calling, right? Actually, we stopped a lot of our Facebook ads at that time. And we said, we're going to go all in 100% on Facebook playbook. So that means organically reaching out and interacting with people that will do business with us. And it went crazy, right? So last year was our best year. It was better than 2020. And some people may say it's the market, right? But it was better in 2020. And I started working 3 hours a day last year. And then this year, we're reaping the result again. So January and February, the best January and February we have ever had. It's already half of 2021, the production already. It's only been 2 months. So it's like this, going all in on Facebook Playbook was the best decision I ever made. I got to work at home with my kids, and things are easy now. I stopped calling cold people.
So talk to us a little bit about what the Facebook Playbook is. What is a Facebook Playbook? Because we're using it like we all know what it is, but I know there's many listeners out there that don't know what it is.
Awesome. Thanks, Gary. Yeah, I forgot about that. So Facebook Playbook is a system that I developed, and it's a strategy, really, of how to use Facebook in a very intentional way. So you're not on there looking at cat videos or just responding to people randomly and connecting with a lot of agents, right? If you're a real estate agent, your whole feed is usually real estate agents. So I have developed a way where we can turn Facebook into a database where you can develop what I call raving fans. And my students are out there. I teach them how to develop 500. That's all it takes. 500 raving fans on Facebook. We label them as raving fans, and then we are intentional in interacting with them and hacking the algorithm of Facebook so that you always show up. Your post always shows up for those 500. So we're kind of saying, like, please, Facebook, I only want to focus on these 500. Please show all of my posts to them. And I know there's about 3,000, 4,000 other friends there, but they're not that important, okay? So you can show it to them sometimes, but what I really want is the 500. Because we want that 12 to 2 ratio. So for every 12 people, there's 2 deals. 500 raving fans, 83 deals a year, guys. That's what we're out to cause.
I love it.
There
So
you go.
I went internal there, and I think Jen did too. Like,
Gary
hang on a
was,
second.
Gary was doing the math really quick in his head. You could see him processing.
I know it's like every agent says, I know 500 people, right?
Yeah.
And I asked them, do you know their birthdays? Do you know their kids' birthdays? And they go, no. Do you know what they like? Do you know everything about them? No. So they don't know anything about them, the 500 people, but I do. My raving fans, I know everything about them.
Right.
And that's a good point. I mean, we always talk about building our database and getting more information into it and utilizing it. And you've looked at Facebook as, well, that is your database. And it gives you, right? It gives you that information like a birthday or, a memory that comes up, an anniversary or what have you. And I love how you're leveraging that. Now, are you leveraging that out to other people to do that for you, or what? Explain to me how you're using some of your virtual assistants or partners, virtual partners.
Okay, awesome. So so what I do is I do all of my Facebook myself. Okay, so everything's genuine. What I do need support in the virtual leader is when I send out the message. So I craft the message, and they will help me send it out. I craft all my posts for the week, and they will help support me in sending it out, posting it up. So I don't use a third-party program to do scheduling my posts, because Facebook favors somebody that does it for real, right? In real time. So we have someone doing that for me. And then we have this, I love connecting people on their birthdays. So what they do for me is that they will interact with people the day before their birthday. So they'll send out a message that I crafted before their birthday, and so that we will have them respond and we can get into conversation. Because who's going to respond on their birthday, right? They're really busy. So that's one of our little strategies. So before the birthday, I get into conversation. What do you want for your birthday? Do you want a new house? Right? What do you want to achieve this year? So those are the kind of messages I want to send out and get to know. So if you heard of Ford, right? That's another thing. Your family, occupation, resources, and not your dreams. I like to talk about goals. I like to talk about the frog. So that's what I use the virtual leaders for.
That was a good pivot right there.
Yeah,
Frog.
no doubt. Jen, what's your frog? You're like, what?
I know. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So Kirby, you're working, you're 3 or so hours a day on your business, your real estate business. One might say that leaves you a lot of other time to, obviously, connect with your family. And when you're not doing that, tell me about some of the other projects that you're working on, because I know you're quite passionate about that.
Yeah. So all my projects really connect together. That's what I like, to have projects that connect together. So for example, real estate business is here. The virtual leaders, they're called the Power of 1,000 Leaders. They're supporting small businesses around North America, and they support me. Okay, it's a benefit. Number 3 is like the digital marketing, coaching and training. I got a lot of referral partners from there. And from that, I teach a lot of small businesses too. So they give me referrals. It's all interconnected. Then I have a project in Africa where I'm getting the courses from North America. So people that are course providers, it's like Tom's Shoes, right? Where you buy a pair of shoes and they give one away. Well, I'm going to course providers and I say, hey, align with us. It's called One School, One World. And when they sell a course, they can say they're going to give one away. So they give one course to us, and we go to Africa. We're looking at Kenya right now, and we're looking at Nigeria, the 2 countries. And we're looking for organizations there that have young teenage girls that are looking to train themselves in the internet work, so that they're not making $1 per day there or 50 cents Canadian a day. They can move up to $5 to $10 a day over there. So that organization's actually, it's not even a nonprofit, because no money ever changes hands in that operation. It's all people that are volunteering. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And real estate's given you these opportunities, and would you say Keller Williams provided or set you up to operate, we always talk about at KW, a life by design. And kind of in closing here with you, like talk to us about that life by design, and maybe more importantly, Jen, would you agree? Like how do you protect that?
Yeah, I would love to know how you put those blinders on, and not how do you keep everything else out, all the noise, and all of people always talk about your headphones, right? Like maybe that's what it is, but how do you keep it all out of your world so you can just focus on those key things, right?
Yeah, joining Keller Williams has been life changing, because it's never been about making more money. It's always about who we're going to be, who we get to be in the company. And so all the training from the goal planning, goal setting, that was all great. I use all those tools for this. So having time blocking off 1 hour times from 5 a.m. in the morning, having my meetings from 5 to 6. 5 to 6 is my personal time, but 6 to 7 is one meeting. Kids didn't wake up yet. So 6 to 7, and then 7 to 8 is another company, another meeting, right? And then 8 to 9, you got real estate. Then by 9 o'clock, the kids are all awake. You know what? My day is I've already had 3 meetings with 3 teams already, right? They're all off doing what they need to cause for the whole week. Okay, so then that's number one. Number two is there's this really amazing course called Quantum Leap. If anybody gets a chance to take it, and Gary Keller, our founder at Keller Williams, has given me so much. I met him only once in real life. However, I just watched so many of his videos. I feel like I've seen him so many times. But with him teaching Quantum Leap, which is a course that is his life mission, right? All the stuff that he's learned in life about starting Keller Williams, he put all that into a course, and he taught all the agents. So I've taken that course many, many times, and I teach that course. And I teach it to young teenagers, so 18-year-old to 28-year-old. I teach that course. So, I had to live it before being able to teach it. And so I use that in everything that I do. So, yes, Gary. The answer is yes. Yes, it has really transformed my life.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
No, I always admired how you think more than just yourself. Right. And that's one thing I have really admired about you, Kirby, is, you obviously are looking out for your family, and then how you and your family can impact not just your community, but the world. And I think that's very commendable. Keep it up. And I love hearing these stories about, one school. Sorry, what's the name of the school?
One school, one world.
Oh, I was so close. One school, one world. Okay, that's it. That's great. And for those that want to reach out to you in regards to the Facebook playbook and leveraging that, best way to do so is through obviously Facebook, social media. Kirby Chan Digital is a way to get a hold of you as well, right?
Yeah, you can search me out on Facebook, Kirby Chan Digital. We have a Facebook page.
There you go. Imagine that. Well, my friend, I wish you all the great success in 2021 and beyond, and keep impacting the world, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Jen. Thank you, KWRC TV.
There we go. Kirby Chan. We're the one and only. There's only one Kirby Chan. Sorry, Jen. I have your microphone muted because I was getting some feedback there. But I think we're good now that Kirby's off. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Very good. Yeah, I've always admired what Kirby's been able to do.
Yeah, he's such he looks at things so differently. I'm always interested to hear what he's working on and focused on, because it's always unique, right, and creative. And I love that he definitely gets outside of the box to create opportunity, and he's always got something on the go. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's for sure. That is for sure. Okay, so we got a number of topics to jump into, Jen, and the first one is, what would you do? So let's we'll fire the intro here. Perfect. What would you do? So, Jen, Jen and I have these conversations are like, wow, that would be great for the TV show. So we should probably talk about that. And the topic today is one that comes up from time to time. And if you're not having these types of conversations, you should. And let me set it up, and Jen will just kind of tackle it. A buyer has the home, and a buyer has a contract on a home to close. So it's pending to close. It's past the inspection time in this regard, or the conditional period. And of course, there's not many conditional periods right now, as we all know.
Yeah.
And you, as a listing agent, you get a request for an inspection on a property that is already firm and just waiting to close. So what do we do how do we handle that conversation, Jen? What should we do in that regard?
Oh man, I mean, there's a hard answer, right? There's the no right off the bat, and then there's the bigger conversation. Are they doing a full home inspection? What is the inspection for? What are the purposes? I guess that this would be if something did come up that wasn't disclosed or that people weren't aware of, what would occur with the closing, right? Even though the deal is firm and everyone has the best intentions and we're doing it for the right reasons, if something like latent or came up that was a big issue that people weren't aware of prior to, it's gonna blow up. It's gonna become a challenge. So from a listing agent point of view, I'm not going to allow that inspection to occur. If they had wanted one, it should have been a condition and it should have gotten completed during that conditional period. And then I know that sometimes also, there's that conversation, it's just so that we know when we take possession, what we have to fix, what that costs are going to look like, so we can start arranging things. And I've been on the other side of this call, and I've been on the listing side of this call, and on the buy side, I was making all the right reasons that I should get the inspection. And on the list side, I've got all the reasons why I'm not going to give the inspection, right? Because it's all about who you're working for. And it's always tricky because our buyers can always say to us, oh, we're just doing it for these reasons, until there's another reason and until something else happens that changes the purpose, right? And once they have that information, once that information is disclosed, now we have to deal with it.
Yeah.
However that's going to look, right? And that would be, I guess, the bigger concern. It seems like a non-issue at first glance. Oh yeah, no problem. Go on in, take a look, do your thing, figure out what you want to know for closing. When you start to peel back those layers, there's a lot of red flags there, right?
Yeah.
That goes off. I gotta remember to mute it.
That's somebody disagreeing with you, perhaps.
Yeah. Probably.
Yeah, from the listing perspective, and as you said, who are we working for? Well, we're working for the seller, and the flat out answer, as short as it is, it's no. That's not what was negotiated upon in the purchase and sale agreement, and really, you shouldn't have to support your reasons why it was not in the purchase and sale agreement. And you're right, I do get it from the buyer's perspective, and that really, as a buyer's agent, we really have to take a step back and think about, we're always going to get requests like that. We can't stop the requests from happening. However, we can mitigate that conversation from happening by having that, the pre-buyers consult and coaching them on what we can and can't do. Once we put this offer in, that takes our ability of a home inspection away. Now we understand, obviously under current market conditions that, home inspections, you're not going to get that accepted typically in our current market, right? In the GTA. And really from what I hear all over North America, it doesn't matter whether you're in Winnipeg or down in Orlando, like it's a hot market almost everywhere.
Yeah.
It really does factor into the buyer consult and having that. But from a listing perspective, your job is to protect the seller. And we're not saying that, hey, we're trying to hide anything. It's just that was agreed upon in the purchase and sale agreement. Just flat out no.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is always an interesting conversation, because sometimes it leads to that conversation with your buyer of where they then start to get into, well, let's just use one of our visits. as an inspection. We won't tell them we're bringing in an inspector, or we'll just, my uncle's a contractor, he'll just come to the visit. And you start to get all of these workarounds. And as a buyer's agent, you have to know how to have those conversations and how to explain why we can't do that, and also to explain what the terms of the agreement actually are, and what that can look like for the buyer. Because buyers, they don't understand all of it, and they think like, oh, it's not a big deal, or, well, we'll just do this instead and it won't matter. And it is our obligation to give them that information as buyers agents and educate them properly. And as you said, that consult being the all important thing to make sure that they know beforehand what to expect. And we talk about that a lot in coaching, to set your expectations up front with your clients, so that they don't get disappointed, or they don't feel that you're not working for them, and you don't get all those objections and kickbacks that are going to maybe make you consider doing something you shouldn't be doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that gave me an idea of maybe a future topic we can talk about is, what is the showing etiquette or the visitation etiquette? Who can show up to these
Right.
Negotiated or predetermined visits, right? And I think there's a good conversation, and we'll circle back to that because I think that's important. Because sometimes you show up and as a buyer's agent, all of a sudden there's like 8 different family members or family groups all showing up, and we get it, because as a buyer, you're excited to show the property to mom and dad or whomever, brother and sister. But there is an actual etiquette on who can enter that property, especially under kind of COVID conditions at the moment as well, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say even more so with COVID and that, but even adding on to that conversation a little bit, the length of the appointments, right? I've known that there's been times, many times throughout my career, and I'm sure most other agents, where you show up and the buyer shows up and they've got their designer, or they're this person or that person, and you've got an hour to try and get all these people through, and the buyer doesn't seem to be aware of the time restrictions or restraints. And it's always a learning moment to go, okay, that need to make that more clear, or need to understand myself what that looks like. But I think these are all great conversations to know as an agent, and then to be able to have up front with great clarity to your clients, and then remind them as time goes on and we progress. And sometimes we think, oh, I said it at the beginning so they know, and then it starts to come up again down the road, and you kind of have to remember that they're only retaining a small percentage of what you told them in that first conversation. So if you haven't told them multiple times, and at the beginning of each new process and each new phase, remind them, okay, now here's what happens next, and here's how it works. You're going to have this sort of stuff, and you have to, a seller can come home and be like, you got your hour, you're out, right? So you have to kind of know what that looks like. And, this whole conversation of what it can spiral into a whole other run of conversations and different topics, because there's so many variables, and sometimes buyers get creative and they want to do stuff that you're kind of like, all right, I didn't see that coming, and you gotta be able to handle that, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so I think to sum it all up, as a listing agent, the flat out answer is no if they want to do an inspection after it is firm. And we get obviously from time to time, requests even during the conditional period of, extra services and people coming in. If that's something that's your intent, just negotiate it into the offer. I know right now market conditions probably don't allow for that, but in future conversations, negotiate that in. And we've done that a number of different times, and who can show up to the property and so forth. From the buying side, we've negotiated that. And if you're upfront with the buyer, with the sellers and the listing agent, most of the time that's, yeah, cool. I'm glad that you told me, because it sometimes doesn't get mentioned. So there we have it.
Yeah. And I think it's important to remember too, a conditional period is not an opportunity to try and vet all of the other conditions that you didn't get put into the offer. You know what I mean? So sometimes this has come up a few times, and it's always concerning when you hear it, where someone doesn't have, for example, doesn't have a financing condition, but they have a status certificate review, or they have a well or a septic, and then they use that time to get their financing lined up as well. And it's just, it's just such a uncertain way to do things, and it's just not, it could cause trouble. So, if your client needs a certain condition for the purposes of approval, you need to have that in there, right? You can't use a different condition to manipulate what your client does or doesn't need, because at the end of the day, you may not be protecting them at the highest level, which is our fiduciary duty as a buyer's agent, right?
That's a good point, Jen. I mean, this conversation is opening up, excuse me, so much more, but it's important. A home inspection is an inspection because, or any condition that you negotiate for, it is your intent to fulfill that condition.
Mm-hmm.
Flat out. And if it's not your intent to complete or satisfy yourself in that condition, then don't put it in, because from a legal standpoint, that can backfire and, bite you in the butt pretty quickly. Right. So anything you negotiate, that has to be your intent. Don't put a home inspection in and not complete it.
Right.
Go waive it. If that's your case, waiving means that you're going to remove that condition from the offer, or you're going to obviously fulfill that condition and move from it, right? Those are two big things. I mean, we should have our broker record, Christine, come on to talk about the legalities of stuff. And there is a conversation, Jen. This is another topic. We're just coming up with topics. What's the difference? And we're not going to answer this now. We're going to leave it. But what is the difference between waiving and fulfilling the condition or satisfying the condition? Those are two big differences. And we're going to dive into that maybe next week. But that's a good one. Okay, let's move on, Jen. So we got some quick takes here. Okay, the first one is a listing strategy, and Jen, you see it more than I do because you're working hand in hand with our agents, our listing agents from that perspective in the field. Meaning, you know, at the beginning of the year we saw a tremendous amount of activity from buyers because there was not a lot of listings over the last couple of months. That's shifted. The needle has moved ever so slightly where we're getting less showings, which means less offers on our property, but we're still getting, for the most part, multiple offers, 2, 3 of them. So should I list my property with an offer date, or should I list it and say I'm available to preemptive offers, or the third one, just list it and offers at any time? Like, where are we, Jen?
Oh man, this is a big topic. So I think the thing to remember is, like, our market has changed multiple times in the last 5 months. We've been in different variables at different weeks, and in certain weeks, one thing will work better than another. I think the most all-encompassing answer I could give would be, it depends on your price point. And what your product is specifically. If you're, a high-end luxury property and you're in, 1.5, 1.6 and plus, potentially even higher than that, you're probably not putting an offer date on that home because you just don't have the demographic of buyers. They're still sitting longer on market, days on market, and all of that. So, that strategy isn't going to work there. If you're really anywhere below that, what we've been seeing is agents who are listing at market value and not having an offer date, or having an offer date, but so I guess when we talk about listing strategy, we got to talk about two different pricing strategies too, because there's an offer date at market value and there's an offer date below market value with the expectation of creating a bidding war, right? And what we've been seeing is that when people are listing at market and putting an offer date, they're either not getting offers, or they're maybe getting that one offer that's potentially coming in a little bit low. When people are listing below market value, whether it's 50,000, 100,000, however they approach that strategy, and holding back offers to create that bidding war, they're getting that market value price. So it does seem to be that holding back, strategically pricing a little bit lower in a more broad price range where you get more activity, is still creating that bidding war and getting that market value price. I would argue to say, at the end of the day, the demand isn't what it was in January or even early February, where you were getting like significantly above what market value would have been from the previous sale. You're kind of getting around market value, maybe a little more. So whether you do it one way or the other, it just kind of depends on what strategy you want to take and how you want to handle it. But it does seem to get more attention when we're creating the bidding war strategy still. And then preemptives is a whole other conversation, because, you know, we're getting preemptives coming in that aren't strong. And so what does that look like? And is that necessarily the best option to take in regard to accepting or looking at or triggering an early offer date because of a preemptive? That depends on what that offer looks like, because what I've been seeing is that the preemptive, it's not usually the best offer at the end of the day. Right now, when you trigger a bidding war, other offers are coming in and they're being more aggressive because now they know there's an offer already on the table. So they're coming in with a competition mindset, whereas the preemptive is coming in with a I'm trying to scoop it early mindset, right? So it's different than it was in January and February. I think we can all acknowledge that. The strategy maybe depends on what sort of demand you want or how you want to deal with it as an agent, but your best bet is to list it below market value with an offer date and not accept preemptives. That would be my suggestion at the moment.
Yeah, and you really do need to analyze the market. Obviously, each area is going to be slightly different, but each product, meaning home, is going to be slightly different. There's kind of, 3 or 4 different categories. There's your entry level, which, typically your townhouse or even your condos, and we're starting to see condos rebound over the last several weeks. And the townhouse market or that entry level market, that's always going to be gangbusters in any type of market, moving up, moving down. And we know that today, that it is one of the strongest markets. The next market would be, say, that next size home. So maybe it's my second house and now I've owned it for 10 years or more, and I'm looking to upsize, into that bigger, maybe 3,000 or 4,000 square foot home even. And
right.
and that home, your second home is still a pretty hot market. Where we have seen it level off, Jen, is that big 4-bedroom home with the 5 bathrooms and that sort of, that's maybe where it's starting to level off. However, it's interesting because I was talking with a very, very high end luxury agent this past week, and he agrees. Yeah. That $2 million range, or that kind of top end of that big 4-bedroom home, or that entry level of the luxury market is definitely slowed down. And he said, the weird part is the top end of the luxury market. So whatever that is in your area. So for instance, around here, that would be like 7 million, 8 million and up. That's gangbusters right now. It's weird, but that top end luxury market is going nuts. So you really do have to become, and Gary Keller will talk about this all the time, being a student of the market, being a student of the industry and understanding, and more importantly, you can be a student, but more importantly, how to convey that to your clients and how to deliver it in information that they're going to understand. Because remember, one client is going to interpret that information or receive that information, learn that information differently from the next. So you have to be able to adapt to all that. But understanding your market, understanding the inventory, and listing strategy, I think, is that ever ongoing conversation that you need to be having for sure, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you need to be looking at the market every day that you're on the market. You need to be making sure that we have transitioned so many times over the last 4 or 5 months. Our market has shifted, like we were saying at the beginning, week by week in some instances, where you have a quiet week, then it gets crazy again because inventory dips down or whatever that looks like. You've got to be on top of it for your clients and for your own ability to be successful in the market. This can be a very lucrative market if you know how to read it, right? And it's a great opportunity for a lot of your clients. And, the condo market is a great example of that. In December and even November into December, for sure, we were talking about now it's a great time to buy in the condo market. The market is down. Well, that lasted all of, 2-3 months. And now we're seeing, one of our agents had a listing downtown in Liberty Village last week, a condo list that went into multiples with a preemptive offer and transitioned from one preemptive to 4 offers. And, it took a while. We got through it and they got a great price and a great deal on that property. And they sold with happy clients, and, they bought in a multiple scenario as well. In Liberty Village, they upgraded to a townhouse. So we are starting to see that market pick back up. So if you're still sitting thinking, oh, the condo market is down, you need to get caught up. And it does change that quickly, right? And the housing market is, like you said, the same. And I think it is. I was noticing the average house prices seemed really high, even in Aurora, and that, which, awesome. But Also, I was like, well, that's weird. And then I looked at where the money was being spent, and those high-end homes, really, that price that has kind of pulled that whole average up, right? And we need to understand that that's what's happening, and that's why we have averages and medians and all those different conversations. And as a listing agent, you need to be able to speak to all of that and explain it to your client, and then make the best decision for your client moving forward, based, like you said, on their location and their property and what their product is in itself, right?
Yeah, well said. Well said. The next topic that we have here, Jen, and I don't have a banner for it. I'll type it up as we're talking, but that's all about from a leasing perspective. Sometimes tenants have pets, and when we're trying to acquire a property, what do we do, Jen? Do I tell them I have a pet, the landlord? Do I not tell them? Where do you land with that, Jen, on disclosing that type of info?
Well, actually, it's funny. I actually just went through this myself with clients, and we lost a couple properties because we had a pet, and we were disclosing that we had a dog, and it wasn't a big dog by any means. It was reasonably sized and obedience trained and all that sort of stuff. Some landlords just won't consider it. The thing about it is, if you lie about it, it's misrepresentation, and there's a big concern around that. And I know a lot of tenants and a lot of agents will say, well, the laws, you can't hold it against somebody that they have a pet. And that's absolutely true. You can choose not to rent to somebody for any reason, right? It's your home, and you have the right to say that that person's not a fit. They don't have to disclose that that was the reason why. If you go into a deal and then the landlord finds out after the fact that you've had a pet and that you didn't disclose it, then there becomes question of the integrity of your contract to begin with. And I would be more concerned about the end result of that conversation if you have the wrong landlord on the other side of the situation than I would about losing a couple of properties and putting the work in to find one that's willing to take animals, right? Now, and their challenge becomes what type of animal. And I've heard everything from, I've had coaching clients call and be like, my client has a snake, right? Well, what do I do? Like, will the landlord take a snake? I don't know. Ask the landlord, right? It's if everybody's different, or, if they have a Great Dane or a Mastiff that are 100+ pound dogs, they create more wear and tear. So you have to work with the situation and the information you have and find a property that works for that scenario. And sometimes that can be challenging, and, that's something that your clients need to understand, and they need to be patient in that process. That would be my take on it. I just don't believe that not disclosing it is the right way to go. Although easier, I do acknowledge that. I don't think it's the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, you want to start off on day one, for instance, on the right foot, right? With the right relationship. And I can tell you, being a landlord myself, I'd much rather work with a tenant that is forthcoming and discloses and, all sorts of different information like that. And now my expectations are set properly as a landlord, or, if roles are reversed, vice versa as a tenant. It's nothing I'm ever trying to hide, or, we got to put the dog away. Trust me. Landlords find out what pets you have regardless. We just do. We just do. And, and speaking from a landlord's perspective, I know, at the moment you might say that it's becoming ever, we're able to have more applicants per property right now because of the lack of inventory from that perspective. And we get to choose, who we think is the best fit. But for those landlords that do accept pets, maybe look at it with a different approach, and there's no increase your rents, pets allowed, and maybe there's if there's 2 units available and or 2 homes available at the same time, and they're both at $2,000 or whatever it is, and you look at it, you're like, what if I accepted a pet? I would accept $2,200 a month, for instance, and maybe advertise it like that. Increase your pricing, especially in a hot market where you can push the envelope a little bit, and maybe there's some opportunity there as well. That'd be my take on it.
I love that approach. And I think the other thing to remember as agents is, just because the listing says no pets doesn't mean they're not open to pets. And so, I've called listing agents, and in fact, the deal that we just got done where they had the dog, the listing said no pets in the remarks specifically. But I called the agent, spoke to the agent, explained the situation, gave them info about my clients, who the dog, like the dog, what the history of the dog was, and they were perfect. The landlord, all that information got shared, and the landlord was like, "Yeah, that doesn't sound like an issue. Send a picture of the dog." We did, and that was it. So, just because it says no pets, it doesn't mean write it off. It just means there's further conversation that has to be had. And if it's a hard no, you'll get that pretty quick. The agent's just going to be like, no, and then you move on. At least then but make the phone call, ask the questions, do the preliminary work, and you might be surprised, especially if the listing's been on the market for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Beautiful. Jen, I think that wraps it up for today. We had lots of great info. Do reach out to Kirby and learn about the Facebook playbook and how he's leveraging that to, build a business to support his real interest, what he wants to do out there and so forth. So we'll be back next week with some more great information. Jen, any closing thoughts?
You know what? No, I got nothing right now, dear. I'm still thinking about the pets and leasing.
Nice. Nice. Very good. Well, for Jennifer Silbernagel, I'm Gary McGowan, and that is another episode of KWRC TV. We'll see everybody real soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.